It's shaky cam time. So this is a non-review video because I'm still getting the parts together for my next set that I have to build. And it's taking me some more time because this is the set that I actually never had, and I'm missing the big pieces, so I'll have to take that guy apart for it, for at least some of them. But I was in the trans neon green bin to see what I had. So this is my trans neon green bin of big parts. As you can see, it's just full of a whole bunch of cockpits, and this is the other insectoids. A lot of Entron, a lot of underwater guys, insectoids again. So this is, I can probably build like all those guys. They came in 2 sets. And then these guys, always cool to have. So that's that guy, and of course this is my bin of small parts because I just used the Lego head underneath my desk to sort out the small parts. And so it just makes my life easier trying to find parts. So trans neon green and trans whatever green that is not regular green, so I do it in here. Because I was going through and I got this stack of unused quarter panels for insectoids, and these are the 4 that I'm going to be using for the next build, because that's what it calls for these small parts. But it needs these 2 bigger parts, and so I'll grab that. But in the process of that, I decided to put all my other quarter trans green domes. I need 2 of those for the build, so that goes over there. I have 4 of those left. So basically I can build a lot more of, well, I guess this guy. I can build a lot more of that guy because that's a piece I have lots of. I can build a lot more of this guy. So I might do that at some point because UFO is a cool series. But what I remember sporadically that I come across something that I say just really like things that shouldn't bother me, because again I do get, usually in the history of me getting lots off of people over the years, I got some really good deals. Not lately. I haven't had a really good deal in a while. I paid a little bit of money for my last 3 sets. Of course, 2 are really old classic space sets, and one was the 6981, 6971. No, what did I get? A 6985. Yeah, well, it's also classic space. And I was happy about that. And it was worth the money I paid for it. They wanted more, and we talked. I mentioned this in that video, we haggled, quote unquote. It wasn't really much of a haggle. I came up with a number, he came up with a number, and we agreed. So, but it wasn't as good. I will say, years and years ago, not even talking about the guy out in Selkirk where I filled up the back of my pickup truck for $125, and I was just completely full of boxes of Lego. I mean, that was utterly fantastic. Basically 1/3 the size of my existing then Lego collection. Back on when Kijiji was around and eBay wasn't yet as big as it was, I found an ad on Kijiji for $300, and it was 2 Rubbermaid big totes of Lego, and it spanned from 1975 to 1984. So it had a lot of original, not basic sets, but the fire station with no figures, just a red fire station, and the police station with the yellow lettering on the top. Again, no figures. And then it got into the no arms, no moving legs figures, sets, fire stations and stuff. But then it had a ton of classic space in it, like an absolute veritable ton of classic space in those 2 totes. Including some of the bigger sets, and they were full totes. Like I'm talking about the rugged Rubbermaid totes, not the bathtub totes that crazy Lego guy had in West Hamilton. I keep on calling him crazy Lego guy, but the smaller ones that people use for storage in their closets and stuff. So I picked 2 of those up for $300, and that was a substantial increase to my classic space collection, as well as cool parts collection from sets that I had when I was a child. I remember that because I told the guy straight up that it was worth more than $300, just like I told the guy in Selkirk that filling up my pickup truck was worth well more than $125, and they wouldn't take it. Which sticks in my mind as, you know, dudes, like, this is worth well more than what you're asking for on Kijiji. Whereas the sets that I bought the other day, for me, were not worth more than what I paid for them. I told him that going on Bricklink and looking at the Bricklink numbers, that he could, if he put more effort into it, get more for those sets by making sure they're complete, and they were not complete. I said on Bricklink right now, these three sets. One was 150, the other was 150, and the other was like 110. So $410 for the cheapest, the least expensive, fully complete set on Bricklink, used with no instructions. So and usually when you look at Bricklink and you say what's the cheapest set on Bricklink, when you're looking at sets, the pieces, it'll say beat up pieces or whatever. So you say, so it's worth more than $410. But there were missing pieces when I put it together. I had to grab like a dozen pieces from my collection. And some of the pieces I grabbed, as I mentioned in the video about it, were quote unquote expensive pieces, like the spoked antenna, like that came in the 926. Yes, it was missing a spoked antenna. So trying to replace a spoke, I mean, I have lots, thankfully, because of my collection and who I am and how I grew up. But if you didn't have that, you'd have to buy that off of Bricklink or somewhere else. And spoked antennas are expensive, especially if you want a good one. I don't know what they are. My computer's not on right now, so I can't Google what the gray spoked antenna is going for, like a good one, but they go for something. So I wasn't going to spend over what, I'm not going to tell you what I spent on them, but I thought I was very fair in the price, and he thought I was reasonably fair, but he asked me for a few dollars more, and I gave him a few dollars more for it, and that was the end of the haggling. I was willing to pay that for those three sets, but it was that I paid more for that than I did for those totes that I bought 20 years ago. Yeah, it's got to be 20 years ago. From Kijiji. The guy was in Burlington, and I just happened to be working in Burlington at the time, so we met over at Tim Hortons, and the guy had, but again, 20 years ago, Lego wasn't worth nearly as much in the secondhand market. So there's that too, because again, when I put the ad in the paper back in the 80s, well, I guess late 80s and 90s, I was showing up at people's houses, and they had, well, besides the guy out in Selkirk that filled up my pickup truck, they had a big cardboard box full of Lego, and they wanted, $40 for it, right? Because they wanted it out of their house. It's more like a garage sales when I was growing up. That's what you did. You didn't charge $10 for something. You want to get rid of it, so you put 25 cents on it or a buck to get rid of it, to get it out of your garage. That was the whole point of garage sales back then. And so when Kijiji first showed up for Lego itself, overall, when you saw Lego, the guy was trying to get rid of it and get a little bit of money, but he wasn't trying to gouge the market. And as the years went by, as eBay showed up and as Bricklink showed up and blah, 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 I noticed that Lego, and everybody else has noticed Lego, it got stupid expensive because it went from a very, very niche market of hobbyists like myself and my friends that I've been knowing for 20 years, and went into a collector's market, like stamps, like Luke Skywalker minifigs or Luke Skywalker Kenner in mint and box kind of thing. And that's what people started saying. Hey, look, Lego, people want to buy Lego. So all of a sudden, the secondhand market got very, very expensive very, very quickly. And I'm not faulting that. I think that's perfectly acceptable. That's what happens in any market. The scarcity is going to drive up the cost. And understanding the market will drive up the cost. Now, my buddy Jeff posted the other day that there was a lot for sale in Belleville, lots of classic space, $200. And I looked at it and I said, I would have spent $200. And I mean, I don't want to drive to Belleville by any stretch. So I personally would not have bought it. But it was very well worth $200 of Lego. Now, again, what you don't see in these pictures is how the quality of the pieces themselves. I mentioned this in other videos too, old videos of when I grab a lot from wherever, and I come home and the pieces look like they've been through a war zone. Like they're scratched to hell. And I just filmed one the other day. I don't know if I can find it again because I threw it back in here, but it's it's one of these guys. So this guy, little scratched up, but it was one in here that you can't even see through. And I threw it back in the bin of it. I should throw it in the bin of doom. But like some of these are very, very transparent, and some of them look like so milky because they're scratched to crap. And it's in here. I'm not going to find it now. And I said, I obviously not one of my pieces. Guarantee it. Right. I have some 6x5 trans yellow glass for those windows for the 6981 or the 6971 and the 6970 and other sets that look like they took sandpaper to it. Like you can't even see through it. It's so bad. And so when you're buying on the secondhand market, you have to watch for this stuff. Like maybe the kids played under linoleum floor that, that has lots of dirt and sand on it. And then when they sweep it up into, like, put it back in the box, it just, and I know this because when I was very young, we had a concrete floor basement in the house that we grew up in that my dad built. And yes, he didn't paint the floor. He put a finishing coat on the floor, in a concrete floor, so it was smooth. It wasn't the rough, the gritty stuff. It was a smooth floor, but it was still concrete, like a solid concrete floor. And it looked rustic because he had a very beautiful finished basement with brickwork. My dad was a bricklayer, and he had like ornate hearth and fire pit and whatever, fireplace. Very, very, and my dad's a scuba diver, and he finds like all these artifacts scuba diving. And so he had these nice little shelving with glass doors and glass shelves and like maps, like Jacques Cousteau's stuff in the background, and little starfish in the corner here and something. And he had all the stuff on display. Like it was like a museum when you walked in there. And he had like little spotlights on like a little section where he found this anchor, wherever, Kingston, I don't know. So he found this anchor, and it was inside this like a display area inside the brick. He made the brick, he laid the brick specifically for a display area for this anchor. It was on top of red velvet, and the light was shining down it. Like, this is what my dad did. I loved it. I loved going down there because it was like walking into a museum. And he had notes on everything. So he had these little written, my dad had beautiful writing, had these little notes. He still has, by the way. My dad's not passed away. He's 81, but he had little notes found on this rack on this date. And then he even had, he had so many encyclopedias and books about scuba diving and the ships that he dove on and blah, blah, blah. So you could figure out, oh, this thing came off a ship that sank in 1872 in the St. Lawrence River, whatever. So, but that's a huge tangent, by the way. So that was our rec room, our concrete floor room in the basement. So it was fully furnished. It was good, but it had a concrete floor. It had area rugs, obviously, because you don't want cold feet and all stuff underneath the couch and where people sat. My mom and dad threw phenomenal shindigs for all their social groups at our place. We had a huge bar and whatever. It was gorgeous, and I really wish I had pictures of that. I mean, we do have, but they have too many families, so I can't show you what my basement looked like when I was growing up. But it was a wonderful place to grow up in, but it had a concrete floor. So when you're playing with Lego and you dump the Lego out, it's on the floor, and you're, hey, I want a 2x4. It's like this, right? And you find it, and then you sweep it up and you put it back in the bin. Now, that house we lived in until I was 12. So Classic Space was not released yet. Then we moved to our new house that I grew up after 12, and that had carpet everywhere. So when you dump the Lego out, it was on top of carpet, and then you're building on top of carpet, or you're building on top of the table, or you're building on top of your desk, or on top of the pool table, as I mentioned numerous times. So you're not going to get the dirt and the grit and whatever scratching up your Lego. So all my Classic Space parts that I had when I was a kid, besides sun fading, are pretty much mint, right? And yes, the Lego Wars, I did blow up a few pieces. Straight up, I did. I blew up some pieces. But overall, and I was 12 and 13 and 14, and then I started buying Lego myself, as I mentioned. I bought my own Lego after that. And of course, since I bought it, I'm going to take very good care of it. So that's what happened there. So all my original Classic Space pieces were well taken care of. Now, going forward to my 20s and 30s and 40s, and I would lend my Lego to people for church or whatever, Sunday school, for a weekend, for a build, whatever. They're having a thing. My Lego would go there, and I'd come back, and they treated it relatively good. And I wouldn't know if I was missing pieces because I had a huge collection by then. And the Lego came back not filthy dirty with gunk and crap in it. So the people who brought it were very, very kind to my collection. And I didn't mind lending it to people at the time. But again, the pieces came back and they were not, beat the crap, which is what I like to see. So when I get a piece that's beat the crap, I go, it didn't come from my collection. It came from somebody else's collection. And you'll find that when you go on the Kijiji on the secondhand lots, not just the Facebook buys and sells. And as I say, I bought a lot this year, not the last one, because those sets were pretty much mint. But I bought a set this year a lot this year that from a distance, and even when I looked in the box, because the guy said, make sure it's all there, verify it's all there. Oh, it's all there. It's what I wanted, and it wasn't a lot. It wasn't very expensive at the time. But I got it home and I started, just was dumping it on top of here, and then all of a sudden I see like dust and fine grits of sand and all that stuff on the, this is a bed sheet, by the way. This is a black bed sheet that I think Janie gave me, or we bought separately. I use this as a backdrop in the layout when we had the Easy Up at BrickFet, whatever, 2016, 2014, to make it look dark, because of course by then the layout was lit up. So this made it look dark. So when people are coming into this to see it, they can see it all lit up. So I put this on top of my workbench here, my desk bench. So the grit, I can just kind of sweep off like that. And every once in a while I'll just wash this sheet in the laundry room and clean up. But because underneath is melamine, right? And this is very smooth, and things roll around, and now they don't roll around in here. So that's why I have this. And it cuts down on the grit and stuff. So when I dumped that box out, there was a lot of sand, there was a lot of dust, there was a lot of grit, and the pieces all basically had to be washed thoroughly when I got it all sorted out and got all the non-Lego out of it. And I took it up to the sink and I'm washing it, and then I'm letting it dry, and then I'm sorting it again, and I come across these trans yellow pieces that look like they took sandpaper, like on sandpaper, because you couldn't even see through them. And I'm going, I mean, that's the depressing part. And I can't, again, I should have been caveat emptor, buyer beware. It is my fault. And now I try to be slightly more diligent when I look at a lot that I really, really want that has classic space in it. Because what happens now is I look at it and I say, the one I got the other day with the 3 sets in it, these pieces are mint. They're honestly mint. The spoke antenna that did come with it had all 8 spokes. Yes, they're a little bent. That's what's going to happen sometimes over the years. They're not going to be perfectly symmetrical. But all the pieces, and the logos have faded, but that's just expectation. The logos on space guys' torsos and on the 1x2 bricks, they're going to fade, because I haven't seen one that hasn't. So very, very acceptable. But the 3x, and I'll show you, the 3x6 window, no scratches. Like it's hardly used. The 4x10, very, very good condition. So I'm very happy that I got it like that. So I'm willing to pay the money. So all this was to get a tangent to this. Sorry, all the tangents about my history of stuff, and I'm already 17 minutes into this. The other thing I noticed when I was sorting out all these collections over these decades of collecting bricks is I somehow acquired 4 of these without, and this is something I have at least, I mean, I can't, maybe I can do this with one hand, because this thing has to pop out. It pops out. So these pieces are this on the back here. And so they don't have any Lego stud connections. These things will pop off like that. And they got this little piece here. I don't even know what the diameter of that is. It's thicker than an antenna, but thinner than a stud. And it connects into there. And they got the little LED right here. So I have 5 of these pieces with all these pieces on it. And again, most of them I bought myself, because I bought new, because I bought the lots off, I bought the sets off of Facebook, not Facebook, I'm tired, from Lego Shop at Home in their clearance. So I bought this set twice. So I have 2 of these from just by buying these 2 sets, and I bought the other 2 sets, identical sets that had these pieces in it. So I bought at least 4 of these, and I have 5 of them complete. So I can't remember where I got the 5th one from, but I have 4 of these pieces from used lots. And I knew this when I started sorting. Oh, I got these pieces. And of course, it didn't come with the dark gray electronic box. So I never even thought about it until today. I was talking to Jeff and David after the show that I'm going to try to figure out how to build these things into anything, because there's no stud connections. That's not a stud connection, and that's not a stud connection. But I've never tried it. I have 4 of them. The other point I wanted to make is what I said to Jeff and David, is that if you have one of these guys, the gray thing, the dark gray thing, without the trans neon green, and you say, I need some trans neon green, I have 4 of them. So if I can ship you 2, these things will fit inside an envelope, and I can ship them to you for a very, very small cost of shipping, because I don't mind losing these things. Because they're just going to annoy me that I have in my collection. I'm not going to, throw them out, because I don't throw out Lego. But if you want me to mail them to you, you cover the cost of shipping. You tell me where you live, and I will mail you 2. I will not mail one person all 4, because I'm sure there's more than one person out there that has this dark gray thing without the trans neon green on the side. So if you have one of these without the trans neon green on the side, let me know. Contact me offline. I'll ship you 2. So you have them. And in the interim, I'm going to try to figure out how to build these things into something, just to see if I can, because I like a challenge sometimes. But I am trying to get the pieces together for the next build that I have coming up for my next video. And I wanted to talk about that, because when I was looking for these, I found these, and I said, yeah, I wanted to talk about that. This is just like the wing plates that I talked about the other night, where I have 4 unmatched left or right 4x4 and 4x8 wing plates in blue that don't have a corresponding other side to them. It's what happens, and I could brick link them, and it shouldn't be a bother, because again, I'm not OCD, but it does, really, now I have to brick link 4 of them, or I have to give somebody 4 for their, whatever, just things like that. But these ones I think are more important for anybody who has them, the dark gray thing, the electronic part, and they want that. Let me know. So that was my little spiel that was supposed to be like 2 minutes. It turned out to be 21. That's fine. I'm going to go to bed now. Everybody stay safe, take care, and I will talk to you soon.